Hey all, it's Starzy, and today I am going to do the mid-year book freakout tag. I was adamant that I was not going to do it until half the year had actually passed. No hate on everyone who did it early, but that's the perspective I was coming from. So here we are, finally gonna do it. And yeah, so let's just talk about some of the books I've read so far in 2020, I guess. Can we also just take a moment to appreciate my Disney overalls that I've actually had since I was a teenager, when I picked them up from I picked them up secondhand from like a school fete, I think, but they're still one of my favorite clothing items. So we love overalls here, if no one had noticed that already. Okay, what are we doing? Let's get into the tag. And we're in a section of my house you've never seen before, but again we're on the floor because apparently we can't sit anywhere else at the moment. Ginger snaps. Because the lighting in the house is just, it's a weird time. Now that it's winter, like the sun's just glary. It's weird. Alright, so first of all, the best book that I've read so far this year, I'm gonna give a special mention to Bunny, because I just read that book and it was weird. But I like weird apparently. But since I didn't finish that in the first half of the year, I'm going to go for Dread Nation by Justina Island, I want to say. I didn't prepare for this or look up any of the books, so if I don't remember things correctly, why am I doing this so much? Yeah, but zombies, historical YA, badass female main character, queer representation, interesting story, like, ooh, social commentary. Because we're in like Civil War period America, and there are zombies, and there's a lot of racial inequality, as there was actually, and that's kind of been heightened by the zombie fact, by the zombies. Whoa. Anyway, yeah, that was a good time. That was probably my favourite thing I read in the first half of the year. And for non-fiction, I'm gonna say Talking to My Country by Stan Grant, because Australians really need to realise that our country was built on racism, and they need to stop living in willful ignorance of that, and the fact that that has lasting effects in terms of inequalities and racism that still exist in Australia today. So, alright, best sequel I've read so far. I feel like I haven't actually read a lot of sequels this year, and what I have read I don't feel like I've had strong feelings about for the most part, other than rereading the Hidden Legacy series, but I'm gonna go with volume 2 of Monstrous, which is a graphic novel series that I am really enjoying. Dark fantasy, almost horror. It's equally beautiful and horrifying, and I'm really enjoying finding out more about the world and what's going on, and Kipper is so precious. Like, we must protect Kipper at all costs. But yes, more dark weird stuff. I don't think you can see Ginger's snaps. It's not like she is. She's sitting just here, just out of camera reach. We see you, Ginger Snaps, we see you. Alright, new release you haven't read yet, but want to. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, because I read all of Sager's other thrillers last year and enjoyed them, so I've been looking forward to that. However, I'm not prepared to pay $50 for a hardback here, so probably gonna wait until I can get my hands on it in some other way. Books here are so expensive. But yes, looking forward to that. I think it has like haunted house vibes. I don't know. I'll read it eventually. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year, I'm gonna say Cinderella is Dead by, I'm not sure the author, but I'm sure it'll be here. I think this is already out, however, the paperback doesn't come out in Australia until September, I believe. So it's quite likely I won't end up reading it until then at the earliest. But I've been looking forward to that because I really like fairy tale retellings or things related to fairy tales, and it looks like this is going to be another badass female main character, which, if YA is good for anything, that's something. And yeah, I don't know. It seems like could be a very interesting take on some things related to fairy tales, and I'm here for that. And The paperback cover is stunning. Alright, biggest surprise, I'm going to go for A Song Below Water. Again, I cannot remember the author for the life of me. Another beautiful illustrated cover. But the reason I'm saying this is a surprise particularly is because it's a YA fantasy, but it's a contemporary. It's contemporary fantasy where it's more YA contemporary with a little bit of light magic and stuff along with it. And because I don't really like contemporary, particularly YA contemporary, it was surprising to me how much I actually ended up enjoying this. And also on top of that is I listen to it on an audiobook, and I can have trouble with audiobooks sometimes and zone out a lot or just not enjoy them. And so the fact that I listened to this on audiobook and enjoyed it so much is another surprising factor. But yeah, I really liked this, and it was another book that had some important social commentary and things like that, while also being a beautiful story about friendship and discovery of oneself and things like that, with some interesting creatures mixed in. I guess this was also kind of a surprise, just in terms of the fact of the Ninth House, I really didn't care for, at least in the first 100 pages or so, but then by the end I was really invested. So the fact that I had that switch was really surprising, but I wasn't necessarily surprised coming out liking it, because it is that kind of dark fantasy with horror elements. But yeah, just the fact I didn't care at the beginning. I find it really hard to maintain little hair, which we've got red hair now. I've never had, red is the only color of the rainbow that I had never dyed my hair before, so I thought, we have to do it. So that's why I have red hair now. That was my only driving factor. It wasn't that I was particularly drawn to red hair, it was that I have to complete the rainbow. But what was I gonna say? Oh, I find it really hard to maintain eye contact, like obviously with actual people, but even like now, when it's not a person, it's a camera, it still makes me uncomfortable, and I don't know what's up with that. Let's get back on topic. Oh, I completely missed biggest disappointment. So my biggest disappointment, well, the one book I read this year that I like really didn't like was The Year Shakespeare Ruined My Life, which, if you want to hear me talk about that more, I just did in my June wrap up. But in terms of disappointment, because I kind of knew going into that could go either way for me. In terms of disappointment, maybe Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, just for the fact that I had such high expectations for this, because I've loved things like Nevernight, and because everyone talks so highly about this fantasy series, I thought it was something I had the potential to really love, and I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. I got to the end of it and just felt like, okay, I read that, I feel nothing. I feel nothing. I don't know how much of this I could even tell you about what happened and that I remember. Like, just nothing. I don't know what happened there, but nothing. And so that would make it probably my biggest disappointment for that fact. Alright, favorite new author. I'm probably going to go with Helen Huang, because I actually read, what's the first one? I read The Kiss Quotient last year, I think in December, and I did really enjoy that. And then I've just read The Bride Test, and I did also enjoy that. Not as much as The Kiss Quotient, but I still enjoyed it for the fact of I'm probably now going to continue reading anything that this author continues to come out with. I think there is another romance on the way. So yeah, I don't really have like favorite authors, I feel. But in terms of an author that I'm going to keep my eye on and continue reading their works, because I've enjoyed everything I've read so far, yeah, now that I've read 2 books by them. Also, the fact that I believe Helen has autism, and so both of the romances so far have had that representation in them too, so that's also lovely. Because those own voices stories are important. Must you just clean yourself right now? I'm trying to film a video here. Ginger snaps, please. Alright, newest fictional crush. I don't think I really get fictional crushes anymore. I don't think I've really had a new fictional crush since I was like a teenager, not properly. Especially when you consider like half the characters I read are teenagers. and I am a 27-year-old woman who teaches teenagers. Like, if anything, they are my children and I will protect them, but crushes not so much, even when it's adults, not really. But favourite new character, possibly Geralt, because The Last Wish, which I read this year, and the Netflix Witcher TV show have really won me over to his character in a way that the games apparently never did. And so, yeah, although, what's his name? Jaskier is probably my favourite from the show. But yeah, especially after reading The Last Wish, I really enjoy his character, like that. There's that mix of kind of serious, strong, but also humorous, and yes, I enjoy Geralt as a character. And I will be continuing on with those books at some point. Right, a book that made you cry. I don't really cry in books. Like, TV and movies sometimes, sure, but I can't really think of a time when I've cried reading, other than like when I was a kid. I think I cried when I read, what's it called? What's that series called? The series with like the subtle knife and stuff in it. I'm having a mind blank. It's gonna bother me until I remember. His Dark Materials. Is that what it's called? His Dark Materials. I'm pretty sure I cried reading that series at some point, but I can't think of a specific time since then that I've really cried reading. So I don't have an answer for this. Oh boy. Yeah. Anyway, a book that made you happy. I'm gonna go for Burn For Me by Alona Andrews. Even though this is a reread, so does it really count? But the reason I reread it in the first place is because I wanted something that was just gonna make me feel happy. And it did. Because there's something, even though this series isn't necessarily all completely, you know, upbeat and all of that, there are some serious things that happen and people die and stuff. It's an urban fantasy series. But because it's a series I've read before and that I knew I'd like there's something very comforting about rereading books you like sometimes. And that feeling of comfort just brings that extra happiness. And yeah, so I read these books on my birthday week because I wanted to just feel comfort and happiness in this difficult time that 2020 has been. Alright, most beautiful book that I have obtained this year. In the first half of the year, I actually only obtained 4 books, and they are all pretty, so I'm just going to show them all off. So I have Disney and philosophy. I don't know if I've mentioned on here before that I have a degree in philosophy. So this is combining kind of 2 things I am somewhat passionate about. And also I haven't really visited a lot of philosophy related stuff since I was in uni, since I did essentially end up becoming a history teacher instead. But yeah, something about this book, like, it's just so aesthetically pleasing to me. I also, there was also an illustrated cover of a book I've read before that I couldn't resist, Cinder by Marissa Beyer. I kind of want to get all of them, but I also kind of want to reread this book before I do that because I read them so like I read them years ago at this point, but these covers are just like, they're so pretty. They're just so pretty. Also, a book my partner got me for my birthday was A Sprinkle of Sorcery, and this is also beautiful. I need the first one since I haven't read the first one yet, but I've read the second one and they're both really pretty. But anyway. And then one of the most hyped books of the year that I still have mixed feelings about, but the cover is undeniably beautiful. So, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Say what you will about Maas and her writing, but you can't deny she's had some damn nice covers, and this is no exception. Again, you've got that beautiful illustration on there. So I do have a type. I have a type when it comes to books. Alright, and then the last thing is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I'm not someone who tends to, in general, kind of put restrictions on myself about, you need to read this, although looking at my TBR shelf that's in front of me and how long a lot of them have been on there, I feel like I should at least read some books from that. But the only things I actually feel like I have to read this year are the 2 books I currently have arcs of through NetGalley, and they are... So I have The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson, which I don't really know very much about this book at all, other than witches, and I think it might be historical. But I haven't really read many witchy things in a long time, and it's kind of a thing in general that appeals to me. So despite not knowing much about this, I do have high hopes for it, because it's also something I've seen other people kind of mention in passing. So yes, and then I also have a YA fantasy, How to Break an Evil Curse by Laura Morrison, which has a really pretty cover, which is, you know, one of the main reasons I probably was drawn to it to request in the first place. But yeah, YA fantasy, I can't remember the exact synopsis, but they're the 2 books I feel like I need to read. I don't know when, I can't remember when either of them are actually coming out, but they're 2 arcs I have to read. Yeah. Alright, and that is it for this tag. So there are some of the things I've read so far that I've enjoyed, or that I haven't enjoyed, or that I've had mixed feelings about. Some pretty books, some books I want to read. Sometimes I don't even know. Let me know, what are your favorite things that you have read so far this year, or if you've done the mid-year freakout tag already, feel free to let me know so I can go and watch yours. I have actually watched a bunch already, but I don't think I've left comments on any of them because I'm really bad with that. I often watch videos while I'm doing other things, so I'm actually nowhere near my phone or wherever the video is playing from, so, and I just have like my watch later playlist going, so I rarely leave comments because I just have like a playlist playing, and like I've watched the videos, and anyway. Let me know what your favorite thing you've read this year was. Let me know what books coming out in the second half of the year that you are looking forward to, or that you think I should read. Yeah. Are you gonna say goodbye, Ginger Snaps? Say goodbye, Ginger Snaps. She looks so happy right now. Leave a comment or leave a star emoji, because I am star. Okay, I'm sorry. Stay safe, stay educated, Starzy out. Like seriously, stay safe. Melbourne's going back into lockdown, so please, people be responsible.